The world of college sports is composed of competition, athleticism, and money. It gives a great opportunity to the athletes who compete in them and allows them to further their education and possibly a professional career. However, the vulnerability of these young adults allows for exploitation. In this speech, I will show you how student athletes are taken advantage of not only by the school, but the NCAA, as well as how and why these student athletes should be paid. The National Collegiate Athletic Association, or better known as the NCAA, is the organization that regulates student athletes in college sports. Its strict guidelines are followed by all athletes in colleges. The NCAA classifies all student athletes as amateurs, so as to not pay them as professionals. The association also has other ways to keep athletes in their system and keep them playing for free. The first is that in their rules, student athletes are not allowed to profit off their likeness or brand, meaning that a student cannot accept money for an advertisement for a company, or even sell their own signed memorabilia. Another rule set in place by the NCAA is that athletes must have a certain amount of time played in college before they can be drafted professionally. In college football, the students must play a minimum of 3 years to be eligible for that draft. In that time, there are a lot of risks for the students to potentially miss out on their possible professional career, most notable being injury. In a recent study done on college-related sports injuries from 2009 to 2014, it was found that football players had the highest risk of injuries of the sports. Kerr states, during this period, 1,053,000 injuries were estimated to have occurred during an estimated 176.7 million athlete exposures to potential injury. From that study, it shows that athletes not only endure injuries in a game or matches, but also in practices, which is something that these students go through every day and sometimes 2 times a day. Many hours a day, these young students are locked into practice for 2 to 3 years on top of having to maintain a good GPA just to be eligible to play the sport. The benefit of playing a collegiate sport is the ability to further your education with the scholarship received from the school, but for many football and basketball players in nationally known programs, a scholarship is in no way proportional to the millions of dollars that their colleges and coaches earn. In a journal, Richard Borghetti writes that from 2003 to 2014, football bowl subdivisions universities earned football-related revenues of $27.4 billion. Additional expenses, including scholarships, totaled $16.8 billion. So net profits amounted to $10.6 billion over these years. The athletes who viewers pay to watch do not earn any portion of this revenue collected by the universities. These athletes are entertainers who are not being compensated for their work. The obstacle and legal limitations of initializing a pay-for-play method would be difficult to say the least. The breakdown of specific payment to the level of athlete or popularity of sport would create a divide amongst athletes. Edelman's 2017 article states the following: if colleges with big-time athletic programs share their revenues with athletes, it leaves less revenue for colleges to reinvest into other programs or to allocate to school administrators, athletic directors, or coaches. Saying this, an alternate way for athletes to make money would be to allow them to profit off their likeness or brand, which per NCAA rules they are still not allowed to do. One of the best aspects of college sports is the players' enthusiasm. Their love and passion for their respective game are admirable and infectious. But there's a downside to it. In their fervor to play their best, many college athletes suffer serious injuries that sometimes permanently end their career. Setting aside the disturbing fact that career-ending injuries will stop their scholarship, those college athletes put their bodies at risk of permanent damage without being paid. Hurting a knee might leave you limping for the rest of your life. Suffering a concussion can cause dementia and depression, not to mention CTE. Those college athletes who put their bodies on the line for each training session game they play deserve to be paid for the health risk that they are taking. The NCAA and colleges are taking advantage of the student athletes by not paying them or allowing them to profit from their name. There are multiple ways of being able to pay these athletes, and all the opposition's questions are answerable. The student athlete puts in a lot of time and risks many things, including their body and safety, for their sport. Just because they are paid to put their body on the line does not detract from the value of the game being played either. In conclusion, there is too much on the line for these student athletes not to be paid or at least profit off their name.